I'm a baby boomer, so I'm among the oldest in the workforce today. Many of us are retired, but I started in the '80s when Gen X became the new kids on the block, and they were different than the boomers,
Mhm.
demanding authenticity and keep it real and don't do this overproduced thing, whatever. And then the millennials came along, and then the Gen Zers, and soon the alpha generation will be coming along into the workplace. So I just thought to myself, just like we value the diversity of genders and ethnicities and
Yep.
income, I think there's a diversity of generations that we're going to have to figure out how do we best communicate and connect with these people.
So 80s to now, it's been a few years.
Yes, it has.
What has anything changed, or have you seen things evolve? I know the differences that you talk about
Yeah.
in those generations, but what's a noticeable thing that you're seeing now that's a big difference from back
A
then?
couple of things come to mind. One is communication and preferences in communication. So imagery is great. You can teach it quick, but more than that, attention spans are lower. The average teenager in the year 2000 had an attention span of 12 seconds, which doesn't mean they can't pay attention to something longer, but they get diverted unless it's
Quicker. Yeah.
very engaging.
Yep.
Today it's 8 seconds. So I would say to teachers and trainers, good luck with that.
Amazing.
Another one would be just, and this is data driven, not my opinion, but the fragility of people just being fragile. Hard feedback seems harsh. I remember in my 20s, John Maxwell would give me some pretty hard feedback, and I knew that's just part of the deal, man. I signed up for this. Well, today it's like, oh my gosh, they might get triggered, or something's wrong. Maybe a lawsuit's in the making. When in reality, it's just we need to have hard conversations, and we need to figure out how to have those hard conversations. So I'm thinking some of those differences could be a game changer unless we figure out how to solve this problem. Yeah.
Big time, big time. And you work with a lot of companies. For those that don't know you, you go into organizations
Yeah.
and really bring this knowledge to them and work with their teams on how to manage this new generation or
Yeah,
this next
I do. We
generation.
do events, and I'm thrilled about this Leader Pass video course because it's going to give them micro learning segments,
Mm.
quick segments where we talk about hiring or retention, or how do we have that hard conversation and offer feedback to a fragile person, perhaps.
Yep.
So in the course, Jamie, you know this, but I try to offer some real quick handles. So one of them, for instance, is I think when we interview Generation Zers for the job, I think we need to do it different than we did the Xers and the Boomers.
Okay.
So one of my little acronyms, it's pretty simple to remember, but it's perks. We all want perks, right? Well, I think the HR hiring manager needs to remember PERKS. The letter P is you need to talk about preferences. Gen Z is going to have some preferences that in the beginning, if you find them out, you might be able to go, okay, no problem. I think we can do that. Or that might be that's a game stopper right there. I need to show you the door. The letter E is expectations. That's even stronger than preferences. I just believe that conflict expands based on the difference between expectations and reality.
Mm.
And they can come in with very different expectations because all they've known is the classroom, not the workroom. And oh my gosh, it's helpful to know right up front they have this expectation. The letter R is requirements. We're finding more and more hiring managers saying they're requiring that we do something for this cause or that cause or for the community. And by the way, I think we should, but you just need to know that up front, not 1 year into the tenure and they're squabbling over something that you had no idea was an issue.
Mm.
The letter K is keys. I think in the interview process, you ought to know the keys to their heart, knowing what they're passionate about. That might even help you put them on the right task or
Mm.
job. And then the letter S, of course, is salary. Sometimes we don't know that until what they're wanting may not be realistic for a job place. Now, this is not insulting either side, the hiring manager or the job candidate, but we just need to know these things up front because the gap may just be really big right up front.
Yep. And what I love about that in that approach, and really how you're approaching
Mhm.
the future begins with Z,
Yeah,
which I love that title, by
yeah,
the way.
yeah,
Um, is you're really equipping the managers and the people that are more our age
yeah,
on how to communicate, how to look for those things that you just described in perks,
yeah,
and how to implement it.
yeah.
Because it can be frustrating.
No doubt about it. And both sides, young and old, tend to get frustrated instead of fascinated with each other. So, you know what I found, Jamie, when I talk about this on this course or live and in person, oftentimes leaders will listen with both ears. with one as a professional, but with the other as a parent. Because oftentimes we have Gen Zers in our own home. They're middle school, high school, or college students, and we're having the same struggle at the house that we have in the workplace. And I find that too often we just give up.
Yeah.
I read recently some data. 4 out of 5 hiring managers just say, I can't even interview these young people now. And I just feel like they're our future.
Yeah.
Like it or not, ready or not, they represent where we're going, not where we've been.
Yeah.
So we've got to figure this out. And I think it's up to the leader to do that figuring out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you say that, I can hear my own thoughts about how when we were told, whether it was on the field, in a
Yeah.
sport
Yes.
or in a classroom or in a
Yeah.
workplace, just we had to just adapt, meaning us
Yes.
as young people, when we're our
Yes.
generation. So it makes it harder to look over and go, just figure it out.
Yes.
Why aren't you doing that?
That's what I want to do too. I mean, I hear so many leaders say, why don't they just figure it out? Here's what I've noticed. Since the beginning of my career, the whole narrative of work has shifted. Adam Grant, organizational psychologist at Penn, says we're experiencing the democratization of the workforce. So it's more democratized. There's
Mhm.
power coming in the employee. So when I first started my career, a typical boss would say, hey, leave your personal problems at the door. You come in and get your work done. Today, it's bring your whole self to work. And that might mean emotions and downsides and upsides. And God knows what's going to be talked about for 45 minutes in the break room. So, again, we are going to have to just do a little adapting. And one thing I say very often is I think the answer is almost always in the middle.
Mm.
We're going to have to lean, but we're going to have to ask them to lean in.
Mhm.
The workplace is different than a classroom. But I think meeting in the middle is where we're gonna find most of our magic
Mm.
along the way.
That's awesome. Do you view this, since you talk about meeting in the middle, and I
Yeah,
think about the content that I've heard you teach,
yeah,
watched you teach with, by the way, I love, love, love that you're on video doing it. We talked about pictures a minute ago with
yeah,
attitudes and how
yeah,
that's such a key component of learning.
yeah,
And get
it's true.
you were such a great communicator and on camera and on video, and you literally took. I think you ended up with, was it 50 micro lessons by the time
Yeah,
we were done?
yeah, it's a lot.
It was a lot, but what I love about how you've done it is each one you can kind of dip in and out of. So if I'm a manager, if I'm an owner or business
Yeah,
leader, I can find something that's probably a pain point in
yeah,
that moment.
yeah,
It's not something I'm forced to go all the way through. You're letting me
yeah,
kind of meeting the need, where it is. So I think that's
absolutely.
critical. And your communication style is so good and so inviting. In that meet in the middle comment though, I want to ask you, should we expect Gen Z to learn how to communicate with the older generation, or is this most of the burden on on our shoulders
Yeah, yeah.
to do?
I think it's both and. Clearly, they're going to have to make some adjustments from the world of education to the world of real life workplace. So I say this with my tongue firmly planted in my cheek, but a young person might come in and say, "Oh, I understand skydiving. I watched 7 YouTube videos on it." That's not quite as powerful as somebody that says, "I've been skydiving 7 times. I understand this." So I think the real life experience that they may lack, having been on TikTok, but not perhaps in a workplace,
Mhm.
is huge. So one of the items that I think is a big issue is having that hard conversation. Every boss will tell you that's where things break down. Either the boss says, "I don't do that very well. I run from conflict," or maybe the young team member or whatever, might be any age,
Mhm.
might have a hard time. So I have another little acronym that I call a leg. So for years, we've all used that term. This is a leg you got to stand on. The letter A reminds me when I need to have a hard conversation, I need to start with asking, not telling them they've
Mhm.
made a mistake. When I ask, I think they feel valued. I'm asking them about their thinking and their thought process and their decision making process. The letter L reminds me at that point I need to listen well,
Mm.
which I don't intuitively do super well. I've had to learn to listen to my own adult children and to young team members. When I listen, they feel heard. The letter E is empathize. Once I've listened, I need to be able to communicate. I'm understanding what you're saying. I get it. I might say, oh, I had no idea, or my gosh, I bet that made you feel horrible when that happened.
Mm.
But now they feel understood. And when I've done those, Jamie, now I've earned my right to do the letter G, which is what I wanted to do from the beginning, which is to guide them.
Mm.
but now I've earned it through relationship, not the badge on my chest.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Boy, if we could have that part of our routine,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
almost look at that. And those are great communication skills anyway, but even more
Well, yeah. Yeah.
importantly for
I've
this
had to
group.
learn it myself. I'm learning as I research, and I'm realizing I need to do that with so and so.
Yeah.
So it's been good for me
Yeah.
as well.
What hope do we have? I mean, as you look towards the future or what we've got ahead of us,
Yeah,
there's a lot I think I've heard you say that Gen Z brings to the table
no doubt.
to the older demographic in the workplace.